And hey, welcome everyone. It's IFB exclusive. I'm your host, New York Pete, and I hope you're ready for an inside track with our exclusive interviews and information from our special guests, sharing their insights with us. And with us today is someone that should be familiar to you guys, Micah Harris. Thank you, award-winning author. You've been on IFB. Interfleet Broadcasting, and now you're circling back. I'm glad that you're here. I want to talk all about, the stuff you've been writing. Some of this is really, really cool. As a matter of fact, I happen to have this Jim Anthony Super Detective, The Hunters. It's a pulp style adventure that you're second to this, second author, second story in this.
Yeah. It's a two-part. It's two independently written novellas that hook together to make a novel-length story. Two separate adventures that
Cool.
come together for a book length.
Okay. Story. Very good. And so there's some other stuff. I wanted to try to touch a little bit on Heaven's War. This is pretty deep, Micah. I wanna try to get into that.
Okay.
I know that you're really, really big into King Kong and the giant monsters, and I wanted to have a little bit of that as well. I don't know if you got to watch any of the new Godzilla or King Kong movies. I wanted your opinion since you're really into it. You've actually written about this stuff, so let's
I
talk about it.
I haven't seen any new material yet.
Oh boy. Well, Monarch. Did you?
Uh-huh.
That's, oh my God. Kurt Russell's in it. It's fantastic. It's been here. It's done that. So before I let you get into your thing, Micah, because that's what this is about. It's about hearing you, but we always got to do a little bit of a setup. Let's toast. I happen to have one of my favorites.
All right.
Let's give it a bit of a toast here. I'm gonna cut to the chase. We just pour right into my Dr. McCoy glass.
All right.
And IFB always likes to acknowledge the fans. So fans fuel the fleet. So here's to you, Mike, and everybody else out there. So thanks for tuning in, guys. And, let's have a great show.
Sure. Sounds great. We're off.
Yes, we are. So George G's in the house, Chuck Davenport, everybody else, as you pop on, please just, put up a question or a comment. So Micah, tell us a little bit about, where you're at now. I know that you're taking a small hiatus, but I know that there's other things that you want to, put out. But, let's start with this. Let's break the ice. Tell me about your pulp stuff. How do you get into, what's your background, and tell us about this?
Okay, well, that particular volume there is published by Ron Fortier and Ron Davis. They're the creative editorial and art team behind Airship 27 Productions. Ron was the writer for the old Green Hornet comic book back in the 80s. Now Comics put out.
Excellent.
And, and he also has the distinguished honor of having written Popeye's origin story.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Ron, has something of a pedigree in comics back to the 80s, and he uncovered a lot of public domain pulp characters, and he and Bob also has a background in comics as an artist. They started, getting other writers, bringing them in. Bob Nash had him on before. He's written for them. And so one of the characters that they rescued from oblivion was Jim Anthony, Super Detective. And Jim Anthony is something of a Doc Savage derivative, but he's got his own milieu. He's part Irish, part Native American. His grandfather's a shaman. He's a super scientist as well as a detective. He can control his body's temperature with his mind, so he can walk barefoot in the snow. And he's a globe-trotting adventurer. And I had an idea for a story. Coming back to my favorite movie of all time, the original 33 King Kong. It was shot concurrently with the 1932 The Most Dangerous Game. Both Fay Ray and Robert Armstrong are in that as well. And they used the Skull Island set for Dr. or Count Zaroff's island. And so in my mind, I thought, well, you got Count Zaroff, basically on Skull Island. He's a big game hunter. And of course, he's hunting people in that. Wouldn't he be interested in hunting dinosaurs? And so why not send him and Jim Anthony, over to Skull Island? Along the way, they encounter a big ape as well. And they also encounter a movie crew that's en route to hook up with their leading man on this island. And so my story is called On the Periphery of Legend. This story is what was happening out of the frame of King Kong that you didn't see. Jim Anthony Zaroff stories running with it. And the other author there, Josh Reynolds, who's got, he's established a lot of creds for a young man. He's written a lot for Warhammer. Former South Carolinian, I think, who now lives in England. Josh had already written a story with Anthony and Zaroff. And so when I pitched Ron my idea, he said, well, if you can make yours fit with his, So I did. And so, it's two separate novellas, but they do join together with this sort of, not exactly a bromance between Anthony and Zaroff. It's maybe a fomance.
Okay.
They sort of, Anthony sort of wants to try to redeem Zaroff as possible in my tale. And of course, they have something of a mutual respect for each other. So yeah, it's their bromance story over the stories, you could say. Yeah.
Hey, Dorian, thank you for joining us, and Paul and everybody else. So Micah, this particular Jim Anthony Super Detective The Hunters, it takes place in the 20s or the 30s?
The 30s.
30s, okay.
One of my favorite eras, for historical fiction.
So this happens to just be one, I would assume it's volume 2, and there's got to be a volume 3. There's no way that it's just, if it's in the style of pulps, where do you go with that?
Well, I only contributed that one novella, but as I say, Ron has a stable of writers, rotating writers, people who come in. So I'm not sure how many Jim Anthony books they have done now. I think there might be at least 3, but they're doing other titles all the time as well, other pulp characters. So check out the Pulp Factory on Facebook. That's a site that Ron is active on, and also there, Ship 27 books are available on Amazon. And this coming weekend, they're going to be at Pulp Festival in Chicago, Windy City Pulp Fest or whatever. Yeah. So I'm not going to be there, but Ron and Rob are super nice guys. And if you have any listeners in the Chicago area, check out the Pulp Festival and go to the Airship 27 table.
Fantastic. Well, so that's great. This happens to be one of the stories you have published that are out there. I know that you do other pulp stuff. You're a big pulp fan. So needless to say, The Shadow's got to be one of your, somewhere in your heart.
The Shadow is in my Jim Anthony story. We can't call him that, but it becomes very clear
that it's him. Yes.
You might, as you might suspect, he doesn't take kindly to people hunting other people as animals. And so he's on Zaroff's trail. Yeah.
Excellent. You actually, you dabble in a lot of different, genres. There's, fantasy, there's the pulp. There seems to be a little bit of almost like a steampunk going on. And then we have, there's of course Murder in the Miracle Room.
Yeah,
paranormal.
paranormal murder mystery set in roughly contemporary eastern North Carolina.
Wow.
Tar Forks is based on Washington, North Carolina. It was the original Washington in the colonies was Washington, North Carolina. Goes back to colonial times, and colorful little town about 35 minutes from where I live. And the fictionalized version is Tar Forks and Murder in the Miracle Room. Yes.
Interesting. All right, cool. And Mike, we got to talk a little bit about, Heaven's War.
Okay.
There's a lot in here. It's all packed in. And there's historical figures. There's your story, and you gotta give us the backstory to how this came about, because Heaven's War is, I'm just going to real quick think about that for one quick second, because I want to show some of the pages and some of the artwork in this is phenomenal. All right, and I want some insight on this. I've already read this. I've gone through this twice, and I am quite impressed, as anybody else that would be reading this. And it's gotten hard to get. So I don't know. We're going to put Micah on the spot and see if maybe there'll be another run. But tell us about Heaven's War, Micah.
Well, first of all, the artist on that is Michael Guess, who is best known for drawing a comic for Marvel that he was finishing up at the same time he was finishing up Heaven's War, called Alias. But Alias featured a character named Jessica Jones. And so when they brought the book back and the artist again, they did Jessica Jones. Of course, it was a Netflix series.
Yeah.
So Michael Guinness and we were brought together by my friend Nathan Massengale, who he's inked for DC Comics. I know he used to ink Batman Detective, and Nathan financed the book, and he also did editing and some thumbnails. So he's really the third collaborator there.
Wow.
It was a great supporter of me. Haven't talked with him in a while because we're going back 20 some years, actually back to the 90s.
Wow.
This is, I started researching this. I thought I would do it as a prose novel originally. And, but then, Nathan had an in with the now defunct Caliber comics. Which were that's where The Crow was first published. They're the first publisher of The Crow, and I believe Michael used to do some art for them. And Nathan, said, you need to give me some good ideas. I can pitch in comics. You're keeping all your good ideas for prose. So we tried to get it going with Caliber, but it was a slow process, man. It was years getting it out, and by that time, Caliber went under.
Oh, wow.
But also what happened was that Michael started working for Marvel on Alias / Jessica Jones, which made him higher profile. So it had been a few years, been trying to get it going, and I put together some sample packets. And that particular year, Michael was going to the San Diego Comic-Con, and, he passed those packets out. And by the time he had some clout, and Image back at the day, got back to us, and we were able to put it together. Came out 20 years ago this past November. Debuted the same day The Return of the King came out in theaters, which, since J.R. Tolkien, the character in my story, that was a nice auspicious there, auspicious debut. But it is historical fantasy. You can see, like with Jim Anthony and all, I like writing in other periods, other times. And this one is more based in fact, in the sense that it's using historical people. Both J.R. Tolkien and Charles Williams and C.S. Lewis are all in it. Williams, who's the main character, is the least known of them, but he was the most colorful one. He had all those edgy, for a Christian writer, these edgy occult connections with the New Order of the Golden Dawn,
Right, right.
W.B. Yeats, and Aleister Crowley were, members of that crowd. Got sort of marched out by cops, I think, or something one time for, they got rid of him, I believe. And but also A.W. Waite, who wrote on both the Kabbalah and Freemasonry, and in fact the Waite tarot deck is the same one you can find today, like at Barnes Noble, And
excellent! Wow.
Yeah. And I'm not endorsing the use of tarot by any chance. I'm just, by any means, I'm just, making a point that this was one of Charles Williams' associates. And also, although I didn't know it at the time, the general great god Pan it was part of the New Order of the Golden Dawn. And why on earth am I blanking on him now? I taught him when I used to teach, and he was an influential writer on Lovecraft. I'm of the theory that Lovecraft's Dunwich Horror is and From Beyond is Lovecraft rewriting the basic idea of great god Pan.
Wow.
And, yeah. And why on earth am I blanking on him?
Well, look, when we're way off, when you're getting ready to go to sleep tonight, it'll come all to you. It'll
pop
be
in,
clear. That's okay. Listen, that's don't worry about that in the least. The information you just gave us is really, really interesting. And again, this is all part of, a little bit of insights into Heaven's War.
Arthur Machen, M-A-C-H-E-N, Arthur Machen. Yes, and he also wrote another influential story called The Novel of the Black Seal, which is a long short story. And I have to say, you might not think it, but a story that's over a century old, probably. The reveal of that was it creeped me out when he did that. And I think he was an influence both on Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard in terms of the idea of these hidden races that have survived in the present day. And Pete Straub's ghost story was very much influenced by the great god Pan, I think, of the novel The Black Seal. So, yeah, Machen.
Wow.
He was the guy, all these stories where the Holy Grail survives in the prison.
Right. Yeah.
Making it, he was the first one to write a story like that. He invented that genre.
No kidding.
He also invented the genre of nature turns against humanity, like the birds.
Yeah.
A story called The Terror. He invented that.
Sure.
Well.
Wow.
Yeah, so very influential writer that nobody knows about, but they should. Yeah.
Well,
but he was part of the New Order of the Golden Dawn as well.
I see. There's the connection. Baz from Down Under is with us. Thank you for tuning in.
And back. Join me again. I remember from last time.
That's right, Paul.
As a matter Jeff War of the Worlds.
Yes, there you go. See, sci fiction. Owen Cotter's with us as well. Thanks for dropping in, Owen. It's been a while. We need to talk offline at some point. Dave Francoeur, thank you for joining us as well, Dave. Appreciate you dropping in. Micah, let's move on a little bit to another one of your loves, which is King Kong. Okay. And John threw up a quick question. He said, please ask if Micah is looking to write any more or write about King Kong. So please, if you can address that, but tell us about your King Kong connection. I know that you've written about him, you've covered him. Have you seen any of the crossovers? There was one where Planet of the Apes encounters King Kong.
No, I haven't seen a lot of the new, none of the new stuff. I think the last Kong one I saw was Kong of Skull Island. They brought him into MonsterVerse.
Yep.
That was the last one of those I saw. Answer John's question about what am I right? Yeah, the short answer is yes. I've started on a Kong project that last year. And I'm excited about. I've got an angle that no one's ever done before, and so yeah, I do have I am writing more on King Kong, and I hope to be doing this year some travel, do some research.
Excellent. Oh, well, now
Not to Skull Island. I'm not going to Skull Island.
well, hey, you can't give away all your secrets except
Yeah,
here on IFB exclusive. So when you're ready, we're gonna bring you
oh,
back. All right. And
super,
this is gonna be awesome because we all
super.
love a good King Kong story. But
Right there with you. Yeah.
so give us your link. Like how do you how do you get in that state of mind to write King Kong? Like, what do you just go back and watch the movie, or is it something you read, or is it just something you could just pluck right out of the air?
Wow. Well, I've been a Kong fan, and I guess a Kong student since the 1970s. The first time I saw the movie, I was like 10 years old. And this was back in the days of, if you were lucky, you had 4 channels, and one of those was PBS, which wasn't kids programming most of the time. We had rotary antennas. And I was trying to watch King Kong early in the morning out of Raleigh, North Carolina. We didn't live in Raleigh. That was the problem. We could get the signal, but as the Earth moved around the sun, the signal would start going out. I'm trying to watch it, and it's turning into snow. I'm hearing all these men scream, and I can't see what's happening. But about a year later, I was able to see it on another one of the old, local network late night shows. And in '76, when the De Laurentiis movie came out, there were 2 volumes. Back in those days, there's no internet. I don't know when stuff's coming out or whatever. And I walked into a local bookstore newsstand, and there was The Making of King Kong. Orv Goldner and George Turner, who was a wonderful historian of these films, and knew a lot of these people, was concurrent, with them. So that was just like manna from heaven for me. I got that book that Saturday. And then around the same time, The Girl in the Hairy Paw came out. And it was a great complimentary volume with all these various essays. And that was my introduction to Philip Jose Farmer. His story after King Kong fell is in there. And of course, I've read a lot in his type of genre now of crossover and pulp characters. And his After King Kong Fell is still one of the best, the top 2 of that kind of story to me, top 3. And if anybody's interested, the other 2 are The Island of Dr. Death and Other Stories by Gene Wolfe, and a story called Pride and Prometheus, which is a fantastic, that story moved me incredibly. It's a fantastic mashup of Pride, Prejudice, and Frankenstein. And again, oh man, I'm blanking on the author's name, because it is a wonderful story, and he's sort of local too. He taught at NC State for a while. I would like to run into him and meet him. But those are the 3 top type stories for me of that type, and so of that type of crossover. So Farmers was there. Lots of essays. The late stop motion animator Dave Allen, whose Primevals has just come out, he had an appreciation of Conan there that was wonderful. And your guest you had just a few weeks ago, who I knew from the Monster Times and stuff as a kid, which I love, Steve. I don't know how to say his last name, but his essay is reprinted in the volume.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, he had a fact. He was talking to all these people. He knew Marion C. Cooper. He met Fay Ray. He knew Ray Perry.
Wow.
Yeah. He was on a few weeks ago, and he was in that volume. So ever since then, I've been reading, trying to find out about King Kong. I remember I taught my high school English teacher when we didn't have cable in the country, but he lived in town and had it. And one of the channels was showing King Kong. I talked to him and let me come over to his house and got him to watch King Kong with me. So yeah, I've got quite a a shelf of Kong and Kong related books now. I think about Kong in that movie a lot. Of course, as a lot of guys my generation, I played around with doing my own stop motion with Super 8. That was a real major fascination, for a lot of us. And yeah, I've got a lot of, I guess Kong on the brain after 50 years or whatever,
And it's great. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a heck of a lot of fun. I mean,
oh yeah,
there's nothing like being able to share that love of, whatever it might be, the genre, the specific, hero, or, like you said, King Kong, whatever it may be, and being able to, bring it to life in a different way and then give it back. That's
Oh yeah.
so special, especially when it's actually a fan that's writing it, because we can all tell the difference between, fans writing and then just somebody that's doing it for money. And, so that's really cool. I really appreciate that.
And I
You
have
do
to
that.
tell you, Pete, I've been astonished how much new stuff I keep learning about King Kong. Photos I see on the internet that I had no idea existed, new information, coming to light, new books, stuff after all the years. And of course, when I talk film, it was a staple. It was one that I always wanted to get in, was the original King Kong. I remember one time I was trying to lead my class, and the natives, Anasaba Kong cheer, work them up before we watch the movie. Yeah. I wish I had that much enthusiasm these days. I have to say, some of that spunk back.
Listen, it's there. It's there for all of us, including yourself, and you're always giving back. And we love that, in terms of, like I said, the whole thing about the fans and being able to give back, especially if you're in a position like you are, right? You're more or less picking and choosing, and it's all stuff that we love. Micah, we just touched on a few things, and you gave us some pretty cool insights on, some of the, the linkages between some of these old time, well-known and lesser known authors. I mean, C.S. Lewis and Tolkien and all these guys, and then of course the love of King Kong. And we need to explore more of this, and I specifically want you to come back as soon as you get this King Kong, their next King Kong off the ground, whatever it may be, in whatever form it is. We want you back. We want you back, and we're going to promote your stuff. So Amazon, I know that all of your work is available on Amazon.com. So anyone that wants to find any of your great works, including, I believe this is up there as well, which is really cool. And we featured this on IFB when you first visited, but the rest of your work is up. And congratulations on making your dream of the love of these characters come to life in your work. I thank you so much for taking the time out, Micah. And there's never enough time, especially on these small short interviews that we do here on the exclusive, but you gave us a lot of really cool information.
And Pete, may I, I've got a link. It's going to be active for a couple weeks. If anyone would like a free digital copy of my latest novella, Incognito, can I put that down in the comments?
Absolutely. Please do. Oh, thank you so much, Micah. So here's your exclusive, guys, right? Here it is. IFB exclusive with Micah Harris, award-winning author. Thank you very, very much for, just sharing all this. And then when you come back again, I expect that there'll be more, there always is. And everybody says, great books, good stuff. Thank you for tuning, everybody. And again, Micah, thank you for sharing your insights, and we love having you. You're a kindred spirit.
Thank you so much for having me again, Pete.
The pleasure's ours. So to the fans, fans fuel the fleet, this one's to you guys, and to you, Micah, for coming on. We got to have you on our regular show so we can really explore some more of this. But nevertheless, thank you so much, guys. Hey, tune in to IFB Interfleet Broadcasting, and see you at a next exclusive, guys. Take care for now.